Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to open the Board of Selectmen's meeting. It is February 7th, and I think someone would want to make a motion to waive the reading of the Zoom.
So moved.
Whitman seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Whitman aye.
Nichols aye. All right. So first thing on the agenda is the approval of the Treasurer Warrant 22, W16, and Payroll 22.
I think you want to look that way?
Oh, geez, I was going to do that after, I guess. I don't know. We'll do the pledge. Skip. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clark. The chief should.
Motion approved. Motion approved. Treasury warrant 22, W16, and payroll 22, PW16.
Do I have a second?
Whitman seconds.
Roll call.
Clock eye.
Benoit aye.
Whitman aye.
And Nichols aye, excluding any COA wages.
Approval of minutes.
The minutes for,
24th.
you want to do them separately, or?
I was happy with both of them, but I didn't know.
I was okay with both.
All right, let's do both of them. Minutes for the 24th and the 31st
And,
at BIHOC joint meeting.
Whitman seconds.
okay, roll call.
Clock eye.
Benoit aye.
Whitman aye.
And Nichols aye. We're going to zip right through tonight, right?
Yeah.
Do we have any, put anybody in the public for public comment? Doesn't look like anybody's really on there, are they? Anybody else? All right. First on the agenda is the treasurer collector.
That's me.
It's all about you. Welcome.
Just a quick update of what's going on in the treasurer collector's office. We issued our actual bills, real estate bills, with the new tax rate of $15.79 January, actually beginning of January. And everything was due February 1st, and everything's kind of rolling in, so that's a good thing. Haven't had any issues with them yet. There's a few abatements here and there for some missing things that were missed, but not anything severe or anything like that, so it's rolling along. I wanted to update you on the 259 Main Street property that's been in an issue in my office for the tax title for a long time. This is the property that we foreclosed on and then sold at auction in November of 2020. Before the sale could go through, there was a title issue that had to be cleared up, and so it had to go back to land court for the case be opened up again, and then it had to be re-foreclosed on with the name of the two property owners, because there was another corporation that had opened a business and conveyed the property. That's a long story, but anyways, the judgment in land court just happened February 2nd for the new property under both names, and we have a closing scheduled with the person who bought it at auction November of 20 is still interested, and we have a closing tentatively scheduled for February 16th. So that will go. It was sold at auction for $220,000, and that is money that will go to free cash in FY23. So I won't say it's a done deal, but this time it really looks like it might happen. I've been working on this, as you guys know, for the last, since I started, basically, for 6 to 10 years here. So it'd be nice to have that done. Let's see, debt, as you know, we refinanced a lot of debt in November for that. We had a net budget savings of about $1,017,000. That was some of the old USDA loans and that type of stuff.
Did you get those bonds back, Becky? Paid?
From USDA? I don't, you mean
The actual
stamp?
bond? Yeah.
I'm not sure. It could be all in my,
Probably should follow up on that, because they probably won't send it unless you ask them.
okay. They won't come looking for, unless they come looking for the money in April.
No, but
when I
just for
normally
your
paid it.
records, you want the
Right,
satisfied bond. Yeah.
So I did put together the whole long-term debt schedules with all the new numbers and everything like that, sent those over to CIPC. There are some pieces of debt that are gonna be coming off in FY '26. So I sent it over to CIPC so that we could start looking at, we want to maintain a certain level of debt so we can improve, infrastructure and that type of stuff. It's something that we should start looking at now because there is some money that's going to be falling off in 2026. And if you just let it go, you don't get it back in the budget. So it's something that is good practice to maintain a certain level of debt, and I think we have that in our financial policies. So I did just send that over to them with all the new numbers to start looking at for some of the pavement plans and infrastructure plans that Ron had put together. Let's see, I've been working with Ron and the ARPA committee, is that how you say it? American Rescue Plan funds, just to keep on top of that and make sure we're spending the money in the right place. I actually am working on getting the emergency paid sick leave. We've been tracking that for employees up to the $850 because we did have quite a run with a few people out due to close contact and testing positive. So I've got a research then on my list of short list of things to do is requesting the reimbursement for those 800. It's about $15,000 that we've spent for those people that were out. Let's see, there's been a lot of employee turnover, so that causes a lot of, adding them to the benefits, taking them off the benefits, getting new people enrolled and everything, checking the bills every pay period. It's a lot of, when there's a lot of turnover, there's a lot of paperwork that has to be done, so.
If I may, I have a question about that piece, Becky. As we are right now, are we kind of still at a net zero as far as, where we were budgeting for
Yes.
people with benefits and everything? And
Yeah.
so I know we have a little bit of overage, but, okay.
Yeah, what I do every month is when I pay the bill, I actually have a spreadsheet that says, okay, we budgeted this. I annualize it out, so I've paid 7 months already, so I divide that by 7, multiply it out by 12, and we still have enough funds in there to get us through, even with the ups and the downs and stuff. It is a hard thing to
Yeah.
to maintain. For FY '23, our health budget, we don't have the set rate yet, and that was my next discussion, working closely with Ron on trying to get the FY '23 numbers as close as we can get them. That health piece is, again, a big unknown at this point. Our advisor is saying that, our person from Maya is saying that she should have it by the middle of February. Because the actuaries have to look at all our experience factors and that type of stuff to come up with our rate. And right now, the top range is 7.5% increase. So that's where I'm budgeting things right now, and that's he's built into the budget right now. Hoping that will come down. But of course, they tell you your experience, you've got a lot of claims and a lot of this, and we're probably on the higher end of that. So that's why I still use the 7.5%. But I'm hoping it comes down and we don't have to make any plan changes to bring it down. So, because we did make a change last year, we increased the added a deductible. So, the goal is to keep it as, not make any changes and see if we can get it down to a manageable level.
Thank you.
I'm waiting our excise commitment number 1, which is the one that goes out the beginning of March, is the big one that's basically all we do for the month of March is excise. So hoping to see, interesting to see where that comes in, to see, and then again, that bill fits into the FY '23 budget to see if it goes up or down from last year, whether people are buying cars, more expensive cars or not. It plays on our estimated receipts, so that will be going out around the beginning of March, so we'll see where that ends up. So that's kind of what's going on in my world.
Does anybody have any questions for Becky?
I just wanted to say thank you, because I know Carol and I have been asking you a lot of questions and everything,
Right.
and so I appreciate kind of everything that you've been doing. I know you have a lot of balls in the air and everything, and it's a lot of time-consuming stuff, so
Right.
I appreciate the time and effort and everything that you put in, and we appreciate the information that you provide
Was
us.
there anything additional you guys needed? I haven't heard. I know we sent you a lot of stuff.
We've been kind of slacking because I was out for
Right.
for a couple weeks,
Right.
so you know, we're gonna hopefully the next couple weeks really grill down on it, and then we'll be able to follow up with any holes or pieces that we're missing. But I think, you know, the information you provided was
Okay.
a lot. So
Yeah, just let me
that's
know
helpful.
if there's, as you're going through, if there's holes or things that don't make sense, I can answer the questions.
Thank you.
Through the chair, how long have we got Dan for?
I don't know the answer to that.
You want me to respond to that? If you want me to skip, I talk to Dan about that on a regular basis. Dan is staying through the budget part that we're working on now. He said he would let me know. I told him as soon as he lets me know, I'll post the position. So we're working together on it. He's not rushing to get out of here, but, you know, and he really wants to leave us in a good position. Right now, he knows we're deep in the middle of the budget process, so he's willing to hang out a little while for that, and then we expect that me and him are going to work together to hire a new person to replace him.
Yeah, well, I think we should put our name out there sooner than later.
Well, we actually, it was out there for a little while last year. So we had a couple of accountants that work part-time for other towns that expressed some interest and said when we post it, they'd probably be expressing interest again. So there's a couple of people out there. I checked the salary level because one of the things that actually Karen had raised to me was the salary level. And Dan said it wasn't bad, and other accountants said it wasn't bad. But in this budget 2023, I added another $10,000 into it to make sure that we could attract somebody of decent quality. So we do have the money placed in the budget, expecting to move forward with a new candidate.
Well, I'm a great believer that have somebody come in while Dan's still here so they can work together and so they know how he works.
And he's going to work with us. He's assured me over and over that we're going to work together to replace somebody. He's going to help advise me and look at candidates. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Dan's interviewing candidates with me, just so you know. Dan's great. I got to tell you, he's phenomenal, and he's more than willing to work with me on whatever we need.
So and he was on the agenda, but he had to postpone to the next meeting, so we could talk in a little bit more detail with him when he comes in on that. Karen, did you have a question?
Well, I just think we do things differently than most municipalities and some of the things that Dan does and the town expects him to do. So I think it would be a smart idea to get it and have somebody work with him through this process so that so that new person understands, like the water and sewer, although it's one, he tracks it as two because everyone wants to see it as two, and then they blends it as one. So it's stuff that most municipalities don't do. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we have somebody. We've stretched him out 2 years after what he originally wanted to retire.
So
He's been saying it for longer than that. He's been talking about it for years from what I'm told, but
Yeah, but he officially said it.
So anyway, like he's scheduled to be at the next meeting, so we can talk a little bit more in detail about the process too at that time. So, does anybody have anything else for Becky? Or? Thank you, appreciate it.
No problem.
Good job on that property.
There
So
you
it's
go.
not when it actually
Don't
the
jinx
party,
it.
right?
don't jinx it. Yeah, there you go.
Don't say anything till the 16th.
Bring coffee.
1 week, 8 days, is it 8 days?
60, February 16th, so we'll see.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
So as I said, Dan's been rescheduled, so we'll go to Ron's
You
update.
got my number.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first, we received a letter from the insurance company for the Woodhouse, Maya, for the issues that happened at the Woodhouse. And we're looking at total insurance. It would have been about $8,900, but of course we have a $5,000 deductible. So there's about $3,900 to work with to repair the building. We just literally got the notice today. So we're scheduling a meeting with Joe Buckley and with the representatives of the Historical Commission to figure out what the best way to spend that $3,900 is. So they just gave it today. We've asked them to give us a little bit more time. They wanted to have it by, I want to say the end of March, and we said that's a little fast, so we're asking for a little bit more time. So it looks like we're going to have about $3,900. We know we need to deal with the hallway. That's the major issue we need to deal with, the flooring, and we also deal with the roof where the tiles are all shot and stuff. So we have to deal with those. But I want to hear more from the Historical Commission of how they best want to utilize that money to get the repairs that they want. So that's where we are with that. As you know, what's eating up most of my life right now is the budget process. And today, you were handed your budget books, and Finance Committee has been in the process of distributing books to them as well. We're not doing the budget presentation tonight, but I do want you to know a little bit about what's in this book, just so you know. In this book, you're going to find all the budget for the departments. You're going to find the budget presentation. So it's going to be a little strange this year because you're going to have a lot of time to read the budget presentation before I present it. So I'm not sure how much more you're going to want to learn after you have a chance to read it. But behind the budget presentation is the actual budget, and then you'll see the individual departments. On the left part of your book is the year-to-date expenditures through July 31st for all the different town departments. So you can look and see how much has been spent year-to-date, not only for the town departments in general, but for water and sewer as well. So that's all in your budget package. Now, Becky and I have worked close together along with all the other department heads, and a lot of work I have to do because there's a lot of accounts that are not under department heads. But a couple of key things I wanted to let you know about, and one I think that Carol and Leah will be particularly happy about. One of the things that's a problem is if they finish their steps, the study they're doing on the steps, and there's no money in the budget, hard to fix it when there's no money in the budget to deal with it, right? So under the selectmen's budget, I put a new account of a little over $15,000 in that account, so when they are done with their plan, they'll actually have some money to try to solve the problem. So I think that's a big step to helping them accomplish the goal they have in dealing with the steps. Becky is absolutely correct. There's a couple of accounts that we expect changes to. One is the healthcare account. That is going to change. Right now, she said it's budgeted about a 7.5% increase. We're hoping that that goes down. I'm expecting a small decrease from Bay Path, and it deals mostly with transportation funds. We don't know what the school budget is yet, so it's budgeted effectively at last year's percentage increase. I know this is confusing, so let me explain this. So, as you know, we sent out a letter, all the towns did, to the school committee and to the school administration asking for no more than a 2.5% increase to their total budget. And while it's a 2.5% increase to their total budget, the percentage increase of Rutland might be higher because we have more students than other towns. That reflected in last year's budget for the school system actually was under 2.5%. It was like 2.3%. And we had a 3.39% increase in the school budget. And that's what I did for an estimate now. I budgeted at 3.39%, the same as last year. Now, I'm only going to give my opinion here. In this world, who knows in this world what will happen. But looking at state funds for the town, we actually lost almost $10,000 in revenue from the state. You know, the state gives us unrestricted general fund and all the different accounts. We actually lost 10 grand, which surprised me because the state is, talking about all the extra revenues they got in this year. But the school system under Chapter 70 funds got a $2.5 million increase in Chapter 70 funds, which would lead me to believe that when they do their budget, they have a lot more money to deal with, that the percentage that costs the towns should be lower, in my opinion, if you have that extra state money. Now, of course, you and I both know that schools can ask for anything they want, but in theory, they're in much better position last year with the money they have than this year. So one would think that they could actually reduce the town budgets even lower. But we'll have to wait and see how the school committee moves forward with that. Tonight,
when is their first meeting? Tonight?
Tonight the school committee is meeting with the administration for a budget discussion. So I don't know what's going to come out of that. I would think that there's going to be that whatever they come out with is going to be the budget that they bring to all the different towns as part of it. But I'm not there. But that's what they're supposedly working on tonight, is some kind of budget discussion. They call it like a budget getaway or something is the way they define it. So that's going on. So that school number is something that we just don't know what's going to happen. The other big question in this budget is as you know, we have Proposition 2.5, and then we have what's called new growth. And new growth has been stated about $418,000 for the last couple of years. And what happens in the way the process goes is that our assessor, Harold, in this case for RRG, always recommends a smaller amount at the beginning because you don't know what building is going to happen next year and car sales and all that stuff. So he put it at $350. This budget is at the same number, $418, that we've had for previous years. Everybody's expecting, I talked to the building department, everybody's expecting new growth to be same as last year. But if if for something happens, all of a sudden the market changes dramatically and houses stop being built next year, which I don't think any of us expect, that could change that number. But I find it highly unlikely, so it's budgeted what I'm expecting the 418. But I wanted to let you know that if that something there happens, it'll happen. Met with Karen for a few minutes today, the finance board chairman. Provided her with a budget book, explained to her pretty much the kind of conversation I'm having with you today. And Becky is going to provide her with some other numbers that she wants as it relates to individual, to employee pays and salary levels and stuff. So at least I think Karen at this point is happy with the information she's gotten to date. She'll always ask for more, but
I'm not gonna say happy, I'm
Well,
going to say, I
she said-
think I have what I
Well,
asked
just
for and I'll let you know.
yeah.
Now, what
She
about
hasn't said-
the Excel spreadsheet? Are you gonna share that
She
with us?
already has that.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, she has the Excel spreadsheet. Now, I said to Karen today, and Karen can do what she wants, but I said to Karen today, because you get into a lot of changes with that Excel spreadsheet, and we really don't want to get, last year it got kind of confusing with all the changes we made. This year, big issue, didn't say it. The budget is balanced this year, so we're not with this huge deficit like we did last year. Big reason we don't have the 420,000 of free cash in the budget anymore. This budget uses about 125,000 of free cash. Talked to Karen about that. We're going to hope and try to lower that as hopefully we get some lower numbers. I really don't want to go higher than that, so we're going to work to try to lower it through the budget process. Conservation,
Didn't you talk about having some kind of a shared document that you guys?
we do. That's
So
the
you do-
Excel spreadsheet.
So you'll have access to it, so you're all working on the same? No?
We don't
You don't
have,
want
I
that?
don't have access to the network.
I gave her the copy of the Excel spreadsheet.
But
so
you
she has
can't,
the
you
same
can't put
spreadsheet
it
as
as a shared document somewhere like?
We just pass it back and forth is what we've done last year.
I don't have access to the network, and,
Oh.
no offense to, Sir Google, I can't stand Google Docs, don't want it.
So it's really not a
It
big.
doesn't work well.
I
with
just thought that, if
stuff.
there was always just one main document, we
Right.
wouldn't have versions of
Well,
it.
that's why.
We
That's why I
could do
want.
that if we had, if we were on the network, but we're not,
Yeah,
so.
that's why though I wanted to give her the Excel spreadsheet. I asked Karen, and again, it's her choice, not to spread it out with a bunch of people because we don't want all kinds of people playing with the numbers. That should really happen between me and Karen and Dan so that we make sure we have different. I versioned it this year with version 1, so we're going to make sure we're very clear on our versions this year. Now, truth is, I don't expect a lot of versions like we had last year, but I don't know what could happen in this world. I'm hoping that the budget she got this year is much closer to the budget will look like when we're done with this process.
Yeah, I just
That's
wanted
my-
to make sure there wasn't all versions everywhere, so it seems
No.
as long as you guys keep
No,
it
we-
between you guys.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm probably gonna share it with my members,
That's
because.
right.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine if you share it, but I'm saying about not, so there's not
But the
different
only
versions
people that,
all over.
I mean, last year, it was only me that was doing it, the problem is it was a lot of moving pieces last year.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's why I think that was part of my concern, is
Yep.
that you were always trying to make all the changes and stuff. I want to make sure that that it was all one main document.
And that's what's gonna happen with that main document. Karen has agreed that she'll be the only one that'll be working
Yep.
with me for the document, so.
Okay.
So we'll keep very good control over that document this year. And again, I don't see the kind of changes that are gonna make it crazy like it did last year for us, so I'm hoping for a very smooth, kind of easy budget year. We'll see what happens, but that's the way it's kind of lined up at least. So I'm really pleased. I want to thank the department heads and stuff and the team that really worked hard to put this budget together. I wanted to talk just a few minutes on what Becky said because I think it's important. I've met now with the Capital Improvement Committee a couple of times, but the last time I really focused on what Becky was hinting at or discussing. That's this issue with debt service and looking at long-term plans for capital improvements. Now, because we have a facilities management plan in place, we have an idea of all the projects that we need to deal with outside of the school projects, okay? And we need to develop what I've said to the Capital Improvement Committee, we need to develop a bond package for certain kinds of projects. And I would suggest that some of them might be the parking lots for the town and probably the parking lots for the schools, which are really in bad shape for all of them, right? I'm talking about the in Rutland schools. That's going to be, I think, a big issue. We have the whole issue of the siding and the windows in the senior center, the community center. Same thing is true of the library. The windows in both my building and the town hall all need replaced. So all of those are things that we need to discuss with the Capital Improvement Committee and put together a package that makes some sense so we can start fixing some of these town buildings that are in desperate need of repair.
When we're looking at the parking lots, I just want to make sure that somebody that knows accessibility and making sure the correct amount of parking and access and everything is all addressed when we do the parking lots, because that's...
Right, so this is something that we haven't got to yet, but we're gonna have to talk with Joe Buckley about having him engineered what we're gonna do
Right.
with the engineering. So that'll be part of that budget for that.
Mhm.
The same is true, I need to talk to the schools and see, when I talked to them last year, that was a big issue. As a matter of fact, it was brought up from the facilities manager of the school system last year. But I need to know that, what other capital projects they might want to include in the bond. Of course, we can't make the bond too big, so we gotta set priorities of what we're doing. But that engineering work will end up happening is Joe will end up having to hire an engineer to give us exactly what you're saying, what the spaces are. The grading of that's really important to get water running away from the buildings, so that we don't have water going into the buildings. As you know, in some cases, our grading is not really the greatest. So anyway, that's something I've talked to the capital improvement a couple of times. I'm glad Becky sent them the budget information. I told them it would be coming. So they are in, I think, a particularly good place to make decisions now that they have a 5-year capital plan, they have a facilities management plan, and a road plan. So they've got everything they need now to really make some good decisions and move the town forward in terms of its capital needs. So I'm really happy of the situation that we're in right now in that cause.
Okay.
And that's, Mr. Chairman, that's what I have for this evening.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Ron or Florence? Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next is the Crocker Communications VoIP agreement renewal.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is a renewal, basically the exact same contract we had last year. They included in the discounts. When you add new lines in the original contract, they gave us discounts for the original lines. They gave us the same discounts for any new lines we put in, because they did put a couple of lines in since then. But it's basically the straight renewal and no really wording changes to the document other than the dates and basic stuff. So it's an easy contract.
Anybody have any questions regarding?
Just so we understand, this is the voice communication, the internet-based phone system we have.
So there's no need for any kind of updates or changes or anything to the current?
Nah, it's a set. This is something that Mike worked on not but long before he left, so
Now,
it's pretty set up. And
That all-call thing, is that part of the system that we use?
the all call.
Like that's, no, it's not a part of that at all, okay. What's that run under, Chief, do you know?
I believe it's called Swift 911.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay. So if you can look into that one, I know it's a little off track, but I know that like when the senior center sends it, it comes out with some like weird number or something like that, and a lot of the seniors won't answer it because they don't know what the number is. So there's got to be some way that it can be identified to say that it's the town or something like that.
I think that's a setting that Mike Moriarty could change.
So let's just remind me to talk with me, you and Mike tomorrow. We'll see if we can get it worked out. Okay.
Yeah, if we can, that really, because like I said, if they're not going to answer the phone or not going to listen to it because they're afraid it's going to be
Yep.
some kind of a marketing thing.
So this does come up as spam on my phone.
Yeah, that's what a lot of it comes up as spam. So I'm sorry, that was off track. I just didn't know.
No, that's all right. I mean, we need to do what we need to do with it, so that's fine.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the contract? Okay, do you want to?
I just wanted to confirm. I thought that there had been some like hiccups and everything with the voice.
I'm
That's
not.
all been worked out. I mean,
Yeah, it seems to me
okay.
it's all been fine with me.
Okay.
The only weird thing in the thing that I thought, and I've never dealt with the system until I came here with this voice activated, if you lose the internet, you could lose your phones, which is scary a little bit that could occur. But that's the only sort of quote hiccup that I'd be concerned about. But other than that, I've not heard of any other concerns.
So what we're doing with the connection, is that going to help solve
I
that
don't think so.
problem
We're
about
moving the
losing
servers and
internet?
stuff over to the police station, but
There's
I
no
don't
backup
know.
plan that would help back this up if we lost internet, so that the phone systems didn't go down?
Not
or
that I'm
anything?
aware of.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know if that connection would.
Is that voice system on those servers that we're moving over? That's a Mike Moriarty question, I think. Yeah.
Maybe we can check on that.
Yeah,
because
I'll check on
that
Mike.
could be
I don't know of any.
safety type of a
Yeah.
check that it could cover it. But that's about all I know about internet. Okay. All right. Any other questions regarding the contract?
Do you need a motion to sign this thing?
Yes,
We
we
do,
do.
with permission, I think, for the town administrator to sign.
Yep.
So moved.
Did you get that, Tamika?
Whiteman seconds.
Roll call, please.
Clock eye.
Benoit died?
Whiteman, I.
And Nichols, aye. Excuse me. All right. Next is the Moses Howe nominations for the awards, and we have numerous nominations. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 actual names, and several of them had more than one nomination. I kind of hoped we could kind of go over each one, but I think we'd be here all night. So I'll at least mention the people that were nominated. The Rutland COVID-19 vaccine team, Ken Lowe, Sheila Dibb, Jeff Stillings, Ben Frost, Seth Knight, Dr. Robin Chapman, who's our veterinarian, Paula Stinson, Robin Tarani, and Nancy Nichols. And Sheila Dibb had 3 different nominations, and Jeff Stillings had 2, and Ben Frost had 2 as well. So obviously, any one of them I would not have a problem with. I mean, I think they're all well deserving. They've served the town well. You go anywhere from like Ken Lowe, who's had a lifelong, a life of constant dedication since he's lived in town, who's always done a lot for the town and participated in a lot of ways, all the way to Ben Frost, who's a young individual who's actually kind of like a nice sample. You know, we've talked about trying to get youth involved and get involved in stuff, and you know, there's a nice example of somebody who's been very involved in, you know, in the town at a young age and continuing. So he's certainly a model for other youth. So it's a very tough decision. I'm not sure how we want to go about it. I mean, like I said, there's some that have numerous nominations, and you know, they're for different reasons. I think without reading through every one, I mean, everybody's had on the board has had an opportunity to at least look at the nominations. But there can only be one winner. And I do feel that, you know, once we do choose somebody, I think that we should send out letters congratulating the nominees as well, just to acknowledge their dedication and service to the town would be appropriate. So any suggestions on how we want to go about?
If I may.
Sure.
In looking through them and kind of reading the reasons and stuff, a lot of them, although they were individual, kind of fell under the vaccine team umbrella, and the work that, not just with the vaccine itself, but kind of the outreach to throughout the pandemic and everything. So I don't know, it doesn't encompass all of the nominees by any means, but I felt like a lot of the nominees were speaking towards a piece of kind of what I envision is under the vaccine team with the outreach and everything.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. And I agree too. I'm just so sick of COVID. I hate to say it, but and I think they've been recognized several times, and they certainly are deserving of being recognized for all their, you know, all the work they've done and they continue to do, and they may be doing well into the future if we get a variant every other month or something like that. It's just I don't even want to, you know, hear I don't want to hear COVID again, but that's just my personal. But it does not take away from the work that they've all done as well. But yeah, there's a lot of them that have pieces in that.
I'd like to nominate or put forward Jeff Stilling's name. We're going to be saying adios to him in the summer, and he's done a lot for the town, and other people will still be here that they may come up again, but
yeah, he's been like our poster child of events and everything, you know, over the years as a selectman, and currently through the 300th committee as well.
I mean, I'm fine. I think the pack that we have is phenomenal, and I was psyched to see so much, so many applicants or, you know, recommendations this year. I know in the past it's been a little bit tough. So, and I think all of the individuals are more than deserving. It's really tough to kind of choose one. I can make the same, you know, I have no problem with Jeff. I think he's done a lot, and he's kind of kept the pulse on some of the stuff that otherwise we wouldn't have known about with the Historical Commission and everything also.
even the support.
Right, and he was, you know, the impetus for starting this and everything. So, I mean, I think I can, you know, I would maybe argue a little bit that the COVID vaccine team kind of can help keep COVID out of the limelight all the time. You know, they kind of continue to do the work to keep it in the background now. But I am also, you know, I think everybody's of that mindset also that we need to move on. And so I don't want to discredit the work that they have done or continue to do, because I think that that's a huge asset, not only to Rutland, but to the surrounding Wachusett and the whole state also. But Jeff has done a ton. Ken, Dr. Chapman and Paula and Robin all do a lot for.
Well, it was encouraging to hear how much their involvement and how many people are really doing so much for the town.
Right.
And it's nice to highlight it. And like I said, I think we should, like I said, send letters to anybody who was nominated. And maybe, Ron, we can get something in the paper of the winner and the people that were nominated, just to get recognition for people that have, served the town selfishly.
Okay, just make sure Beth will have it. I need a list of
And
all the
this won't be
things.
on the wage thing, because, these are on, these are people that do it just for, give back to the town, so it's well appreciated. Yeah, it's very tough. Like I said, I have no problem with absolutely anybody on this list. I think they've all done an amazing job. But it's tough, because, like Leah said, we can certainly support any one of them as the nominee. But then again, to your point, if Jeff leaves, this will be his last shot at putting his name on I guess on the award, because if he's not a resident, don't you have to be a resident to be on this?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
So you want me to make the nomination that we?
Well, Carol has already
Oh.
made a nomination. It's just a matter
I'll
of
second that one.
Okay. Any other discussion or any comments? I'd be more than happy to nominate my wife too, but I'm just kidding.
Carol, excuse me, just tell me who the nominee is you said? What was your name?
Jeff.
Jeff Stilling.
Oh, you did, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion anybody wants to have? All right, we'll do a roll call.
Clock eye.
Benoit eye?
Wait, and I.
And Nichols eye. So, like I said, not to take away from any of the,
No, they were all
the
great.
hard work and stuff like that, but
And it was great to see the applicants. There were some new names of applicants that we
Yeah.
don't necessarily see with participation and stuff. So I appreciate that this award kind of is reaching out to the broader community also, and people are starting to kind of pick up on it. So,
right.
I'll volunteer to write the letters if you want.
Okay. Yeah, we'll probably just do a standard, letter thanking them, and then we can send them out. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And then once we have, like I said, maybe Ron can try to get the newspaper to at least list the winner in the.
Yeah, we could develop a press release kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right. Thank you all very much. All right. Just to follow up, I know we had some discussions. We had sent a letter about how we're going to follow up on on Ron's review. Carol and I had met with him when we set up the agenda. We're trying to figure out a plan of attack on how we want to address what the board's concerns were. There's a lot in the review, and I think it'd be difficult to set any kind of a plan to address every individual one. And some of them may well have already been addressed since we had our discussion, but we do need to have some kind of a plan to address any of the board's continuing concerns, and I'm not quite sure how we want to proceed with that. Like I said, we were looking for originally just to have Ron give us an update on far as where it stands on some of these that we addressed, but there's a lot of different individual things. I probably envisioned it more to be by each category what the concerns were and if they've been addressed or how we want to address them, but I'm not sure what the board's feeling is on how they want to proceed with it. Obviously we want to address it and hopefully close out or do whatever we need to do to finalize it. Do you have any?
Well,
Yeah.
myself, I sat down with Ron and we had a go-round this way and that way. And I think we came to an agreement that he was going to work on some of his minor problems or major or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So and he seems to be doing that as we speak, but a new broom sweeps clean. We threw the broom at him, he's got to sweep it up, you know what I mean?
Right, and that's great, because so we want to implement whatever your discussion was on how we would approach any concerns that you had. But we've got to find some way to kind of, consolidate it and have some kind of a review process. I'm not sure if anybody else has any.
I mean, I guess I kind of, if I may, see it as from each of the kind of areas that we evaluated, I think there were kind of overarching themes within all of those areas that I think the board was kind of in consensus with as far as what was going well or areas for improvement or growth within those areas. And so if we can work to address those aspects, it might only be, I mean, if we can kind of target it to each area that we evaluated, the top concerns maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those I think concerns kind of trailed across multiple, the underlying root or cause of those concerns may have been similar, whether it's a communications piece or whatever. I don't know if that's something that the board is interested in kind of.
I think what was difficult, because you said, like I said, you said there's a lot of common concerns, but also they're kind of like the same concerns all put in different ways, because we tried to consolidate everybody's comments into one review, which made it, like I said, that's what makes it complicated to have any kind of a plan for improvement, is because there was just so many different comments, and I think we need to find a way to consolidate and drill down to the specific concerns under each element. How are we going to approach this? It's going to be what's going to be the most
effective for everyone.
right? So that we're all on the same page as far as. I mean, I guess my recommendation is that Ron at least comment on each element. Like I said, there's certain areas that you've already addressed, like the meetings and certain things that have already been taken care of. So we can,
So, Mr. Chairman, let me just make a couple of brief comments, because I don't really want to get into the details of this. First, I read the reviews, the summary review you gave me, and your review and Leah's review, and understand the concerns of the board. As I said to you, I'm going to do. I came here to try to make you happy. I mean, I came. I work for the board. I'm going to be really clear. I have no other agenda. My job is to try to do things that improve this town. And I feel like I worked really hard on it. I've heard views on communication, in numerous comments, and there's some which I agree with, and some I don't agree with. But it's my job to reflect on all of the comments that were made there and to try to improve it. As you know, Mr. Chairman, for instance, one of the concerns was of having regular department head meetings, and we now have them scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
There was a question about communication, and I found it, truthfully, I found it very odd, only because I know what I've said to my department heads, and there was some feeling of the board, it came out from numerous people, that somehow the board, employees were not allowed to talk to board members and could not communicate with board members. So in my department head meeting I recently had, I asked my department heads about that, because I was surprised by that, because I don't recall ever saying that. And there was a discussion, and I'll be very frank with you. I told them if they come to me and we do a budget and then I change the budget, they shouldn't go around me to board members and ask for things that I've already said no to. I don't think that's appropriate for board members to do that. They can speak with the finance committee when they speak and answer questions the finance committee has, but it's not right for me to cut something and then I'm going to go back and say, oh, I want it, and solicit board members. But I've never said, and none of my department head members, when I asked them about this, ever suggested I said that, but for some reason there's a clear feeling, at least a couple of board members, that somehow I would stop communication. Quite frankly, I have no problem with board members asking department heads whatever they want, information employees. It doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, it makes my life easier if people ask a question. I think we all agree that no board member should tell an employee what to do, but in terms of asking for information, I don't see that as an issue. But I brought it out to my department head because clearly somehow members thought that. So I'm trying to utilize those things that were said in my review as a way to improve and try to make myself better. It was comments to the degree that I'm not going to say I was shocked that somehow when a citizen comes to express a concern to me, I blow them off or I don't listen to them, that surprised me because I can't recall ever meeting with a citizen and not talking to them about whatever it was that they wanted to talk about. I think that Beth or anyone who's worked in my office knows I go to my way to be nice to people when they come into my office. I've never been rude to anybody. But I take that. If there's a feeling of that, I need to find out why. If there is, for somebody that believes that, the review doesn't tell me about an individual case, but I'll continue to do what I think I always try to do, is to provide the best quality customer service to our employees and our team. I'm not going to lie to this board and say that every employee who works for me is going to be happy and love me in a moment, because some of the things I say to employees are disciplinary in nature, or I need you to do this or do that, and they may not like it, but that's not really my problem. It's part of being a manager. You have to let employees know when things are done. I'll give you an example. When I came in, it was employees could kind of come and go as they wanted to, and they could work from home. They never had to fill out a form telling me they were taking a sick day or holiday or anything like that. Well, I instituted that and made them all fill out forms after turning them in to me. A lot of them didn't like that very much because it took away control from them and made them accountable to actually show up at work and stuff. And I'm sure it aggravated some employees, but that's my job. That's part of what I have to do. Some concerns about, and I worked with DPW Director Buckley a lot in this last 6 months. Didn't really do it because I like DPW Director Buckley more than I like Chief Monaco. It's just the nature of the work. Joe has been working with me to improve facilities and work together to try to make our facilities better, and trying to meet with people like the community center director and the library director, and trying to figure out how we fix these buildings. And we've had the sewer concerns about trying to get the money back that we've been overcharged from the state for the sewer concerns. We had to rebuild our entire, as you know, water sewer department. We had nobody. So I spent a lot of time with Joe. It's the nature of the business at the time. Joe has a lot of things on his plate. Other departments are kind of running their day-to-day department, but Joe has huge projects on the table right now that are important. So, there was some concern, I think, of my department heads that I spent too much time with Joe. Well, I'm sorry, that was the need at the time. Maybe I'll be working a lot more with the library director as we're fixing the library building or whatever it might be. But it's just the needs that Joe right now is kind of a extremely busy, project-oriented guy. So, you guys are, you're happy to put together a list of things you want me to improve on. Believe me, I got the message that I got. I really received it loudly and clear. So I understand those concerns, and we'll do better at trying to address them and make it better. If the board wants to say it again in a narrow sort of way and define what they think, I'm happy to oblige and listen to what the board says. But I truly want you to understand I got it. I got the concerns. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave you guys to decide whatever you want, but that's the way I feel about it.
I have a question. I was kind of expecting, and maybe I misunderstood, I was kind of expecting like a little bit of a follow-up from Ron, as far as kind of, these are what I see, based on the review and everything that I've talked with the board members or received the reviews or the review in person. Yeah. These are kind of the main topics that I'm planning on focusing on, and then we can have that, that puts a little bit, we've gone through it from the board side. It gives Ron some time to digest everything and put it together, and then have us see what his take of the review is.
So Selectman Wyman, I made some comments, and I really made it clear in my conversation with Chair and Vice Chair, and with Skip happened to come in, and I was talking with Skip about it as well. I really don't want to get into every individual point of concern that people raised, because and some I think have merit, and others I don't think have any merit whatsoever, to be honest with you. What bothered me about this review process, and I think we're going to have a very serious conversation about next year's process, because when I expected this review and what the agreement we had in the contract negotiations and the actual employee contract between me and the board talks about establishing goals and objectives, and then I'd be evaluated based upon those goals and objectives, which in my mind are more aligned to accomplishments. That never happened. Why, I'm not really sure, because we did think you remember that we did have some early discussions about my goals and objectives, and it never turned into a document for some reason of what to expect. I was surprised, and I said this to the chair, I was very surprised that we had agreed that we would have 3 reviews each, review each quarter till we got to the last quarter. And I said this directly to the chair, that when I walked out of here after the 3rd review, I was pretty pleased. I didn't hear much in concerns. I felt like, okay, I must be addressing the board's concerns. And I thought after the 3rd quarter that things were going pretty well. And left that night, got home, talked to Kim and said, geez, they were pretty happy, everything went well. So I got to be honest, I was very shocked when I got my 4th review, and I told the chairman that. We had some discussions about that and why that could have happened. But the subjectiveness of this review, to me, it was a lot of things in the review that I heard from somebody that this is happening, or a department head said this. Never really heard or understood who said what or whatever. The review based upon the contract is not supposed to be subjective. It's not supposed to be, this is what I think of your personality, or that. That's not what we agreed to in the contract that we agreed to. We agreed to an evaluation that was based upon goals, objectives, and accomplishments. And really, I gave you a long list of goals, objectives, or accomplishments that I thought were pretty positive in nature, and yet the review really was based on more subjective kind of things. And I think that we need to have a more earnest conversation about next year's and looking at goals and objectives like we agreed to when we did the hiring process and the contract says. I think that is more important, because I don't, this subjective process leaves it open to whatever interpretation anybody wants to make on things that I have no clue who said what or did what, or why somebody felt this way. So I think that we need to have some new discussions, and I think we're going to have to now follow the contract and what we agreed to a lot more closely, because we didn't follow it at all.
And I know you had mentioned that it wasn't in line with the goals and objectives. And I had commented to you on several occasions you were provided with the review. So that would have been the time if you had concerns feeling that it wasn't reflective of your job.
Okay.
So you would have had an opportunity to say, like, I really don't feel this is in line with what our understanding was. And
Yeah.
so when the previous chair submitted it, we had opportunity to review it. And then when it was submitted again, we also looked for opportunity to review it. So, and I agree, this is not a good evaluation. I think we need to look at the system. I don't think this is a good system, but it is the one we had and we all accepted a couple of times.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be honest from my point of view, right? So, you guys did that and kind of came up with that system, and I was like, I really didn't want to fight with the board about it. I didn't think it was in my best interest.
Well, we just continued with the system we already had.
The system we had, I know. And I didn't want to fight about it with the system. I didn't like it because I knew it was going to be more subjective. Didn't think it was going to be anything like it was, but it's very hard to say to the board, this is not what we agreed to, you're not following the contract. And truthfully, under the conversations this goes previous to with the chair, and seeing the first review I got the quarter wasn't bad, and I thought was pretty good. I had a lot more trust that the board was going to be more, after I turned in all those goals and all the things that were accomplished. I really thought and expected it not to be subjective, but to really evaluate those things that were accomplished. And I expected to see that in the review process, and I was surprised that there's very little about all that huge list of things that I felt were accomplished. And instead, a lot of focus on very subjective kind of things. So, I don't feel as comfortable now than I did before. I didn't expect the result to be what it was, to be frankly honest with you. Now that I see it, I go, you know what, we need to go back to the original intention of the contract between us so that we don't have subjectivity. We have actual, this is what I want you to do. This is, you did or you didn't do it. And it gets away from, I heard from somebody that, you were doing this or not doing this, or, you're told people not to tell department heads to speak to us. I mean, that I don't know what that means or who said that, or I don't understand all that. So. Okay. But I that's for a later discussion about a future discussion.
And like I said, I mean, maybe you didn't want to argue whatever, but that would have been, like when I get I do a lot of these, I've done them for many years, and when I get my review and I have concerns, I say to my supervisor, this doesn't seem, like this is an unachievable goal, or this doesn't fit my job description. You have that discussion up front. So maybe you didn't feel comfortable, but you had an opportunity to
No,
do it. And I'm not saying that,
discussion. I agree.
no, but I'm saying this isn't totally out of line. Like, it wasn't totally unexpected, the type of review you were getting, because you had the opportunity
Because I
to
saw
look
it,
at it.
yep.
And I'm gonna clarify on the not talking to departments, because I know up front when we first hired you, I had a concern that I didn't want select board members to go to departments and tell them to do things behind the town administrator. And we made that very clear, that we didn't want all the members going and telling them different things. And at the beginning, when you first came in, you did make a comment at a meeting regarding not going to the selectmen. I don't know how it was made, but you did make some
I
kind of,
did.
and how people took that may have been differently. Because I know, Skip, you've had people in town that work in town that said, no, I'm not supposed to talk to the selectmen. But
But that,
we're not gonna come in, we're not gonna point people out, unless somebody comes to us with a formal complaint about you, and we're gonna sit and discuss it. But you gotta understand, if as selectmen, we have comments made, then it's a perception that we want to address. And it's not saying that you're wrong or right, but we need to address the perception. And you can't and we can't just say, oh, well, I don't know who said it or this and that, because we're not going to come in, and we can't go to you, to somebody's bosses, and say, oh, this person said that, you're doing this or that, unless it's a formal complaint. So I think that you understand that we want to address the perception of you as our leader in town, either whether it's by the employees or it's by the residents. So if there's things being said, we're making you aware of it. And I know it's tough to not address a specific thing, but it's also, we can't just come and say, so-and-so talked about, and said this and that, unless I've talked to you about certain employees that I've had complaints about or this and that. I will come to you and specifically talk to you about that. But we can't just dismiss that it doesn't happen, but we want to fix it. So if that's the perception, what can we do to fix it so there's not that perception?
and that's fine. I don't even really argue much about what you're saying, and I don't mind having that discussion. But now you're putting on a formal review as I did something wrong, with me not having any opportunity whatsoever to know what the context of what the discussion was even about. Like, I don't have a clue what that was about. I have no way to defend myself, because I don't even know what it was about, or what the context of that was. So I don't mind you mentioning it to me, but when you put in my formal review of job performance about something somebody said about me that I don't know what the context is or anything, it's pretty hard to understand. This is my job
Right.
description.
So I mean, and that's why
So
we
it's
try to
not-
give you
it's serious to me.
an opportunity to respond to
I
us.
can't respond to
Because
something I don't know.
you can say, I don't understand where this is coming from. I need clarification on it as part of your review. And it didn't come from me, because I think I was pretty clear on anything I said
Yeah.
about you, where it came from and what our expectations were and stuff like that. But if you have a concern where you don't understand where somebody's coming from, you can say, this has been addressed. I understand, like I said, you are a town administrator, you're the figurehead of our town right now, so perception is everything. So if it's out there that there's an issue, we want to address it, whether you think it's unfounded or not, because if somebody doesn't like somebody, they're going to talk to more people than somebody's going to come in and say, Ron did that. You know how it works as far as customer service.
Right.
So if we're getting a perception from people, what can we do to change that perception so that it's not out there?
And Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to get into the debate. I don't
No,
want
I-
this argument,
But I want
let
you
me
to
say
see
this
where
to
we're
you.
coming from, because it's
Yeah,
not just an
let me
attack.
say, let me just say this to you. I don't have a problem if you hear about, somebody says something to you today, and tomorrow you come in and give me a call and saying, hey, this is what I'm hearing, what's the perception, whatever like that. You don't even have to tell me who it is. I don't mind dealing with that.
Mhm.
Because then, that's something you're right. I need to do and deal with the perception of it. It's a little bit different when you put it in my annual review and like it's true, and okay, this is something somebody said about you, and we're kind of taking it for true, and you defend yourself. That's different than what we're talking about.
Right.
If you want to if you want to talk to me about a problem, board members have stopped my office. Like Leah's popped in 3 or 4 times. We've had long discussions. Carolyn, you and I have had long discussions, skipping away. I will answer anything you guys ask me, and I'll tell you anything you want in terms of what I know about the discussion. I've been open and honest with each member of this board, and you guys have had an opportunity to meet with me whenever. I've never closed the door. If you ask me for something, you get responses within hours, usually, of the responses. So I don't have the problem with bringing it to me. I just think that when you do an annual review and it's somebody's job performance in a line, that it should be more verifiable than just, I heard what this is going on. That's my argument. I I don't disagree with bringing it to me, but we're talking about when you do a job performance review that's public like this, it's out in the public and everybody gets to see it. It should be based upon factual stuff, not hearsay, is what I'm trying to say too. But with that, Mr. Chairman, again, I don't want to debate individual points, but I do want to make it clear how I felt about some of the issues.
And I think we've clarified pretty much kind of like
Yep.
the whole process and stuff. But what the board needs to decide is how we want to move forward with the.
I mean, my only other comment kind of is that having goals and objectives, yes, you can you check off that this was done, what actually was done, but working in, especially a town such as ours, building those relationships and still having the relationships with the ongoing staff and community and everything, I think is really important. So you can come in and do stuff, but at the cost of our employees or whatever. And so some of my comments were kind of like, yes, X was accomplished, however, it could have maybe been done in a more inclusive or collaborative manner. And so that was some of my comments. But as far as moving forward, I mean, I still kind of just go back to having an actual goal setting meeting or whatever with the chair or with the town administrator, so it's clear goals and objectives and what the board's expectations are. I think we kind of all did that individually when you started, and
Never documented it. I don't know what
not
happened to
ever
it.
in a public meeting. And then, but to address the current review, again, I kind of just go back to the fact of like pulling together the overarching themes and progress. And some of that is going to be tough because it's that perception piece. In my mind, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. That there's that piece also. So I don't know. But I will say I felt like we did the 6-month review and gave, feedback and everything. And then to hear, just similar feedback throughout the second 6 months also was what played into my yearly review. I, felt like the 6-month was kind of, this is what's going well, this is where I would like to see kind of things be by the end of the year, or the end of the year, and how that played out.
Sure, I'm just looking I don't know if David Jenkins is on. I'm just because he's going to be doing
I
that
don't
part.
see-
And I keep looking because is it okay if I ask if he's there?
Yeah.
I don't-
Maybe that person with
That's right, with the
but for
phone.
some reason
David,
it's
are you
on
there?
hold.
David? Okay. Well, I guess when we finish, we'll check again. But I just want to see because you've got that executive session with him. I just want to see. I told him 6:30. That's why I was curious to find out.
So I mean, as a board, this review, everybody gave individual input, and as a board, we had to do a consensus as far as the review mid-year and throughout the year. So, we're all elected officials. I can't really dictate anybody's individual reviews. I can only do my own, and then we can just discuss it as a board. So I'm not going to address any individual comments from other board members. I mean, that's not my place. But we do need to find a way that we're going to address any concerns that, the board had in the review.
We'll think on it.
I mean, is there anything that we want at this time? I mean, I know we sent a letter to Ron saying that we wanted to address some of the weaknesses, and we've got to condense and say what the major issues are and what the plan is if the board has concerns on specific issues. And I think just kicking the can down the road isn't gonna.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's fair to Ron. I don't think it's
Right.
fair to the town. I don't think it's fair to us. I mean, but I agree, kind of, it's a brainstorming thing right now.
I don't know if it has to be solved tonight, but
Right. I mean, if you want to we can postpone and continue at the next meeting. Give everybody a little bit chance to think about. I don't know. I mean, I was comfortable with the review I did, and I made the comments I had, but we do need to get responses to address it. I mean, that, the review is out there, it's done, and now we need to respond to what the review, the conclusion of the review was, so.
And I guess I was expecting to have a little bit of what the private conversations seems like they were in open session, as far as just addressing specific comments that are overarching among the review versus kind of private one-on-one conversations or whatever. I don't know.
So, Leah.
Yeah.
More than 2 people is a meeting.
Right.
So what I said to Ron, on a 1-to-1, you wouldn't want to hear what it was in an open meeting. Am I right or wrong, Ron?
I thought our conversation was productive.
Right.
That's what I said. I thought our conversation was
Good way to
productive,
put it.
and I'd be happy to have any of those conversations. I've had that same basic
Right, but
conversation
if you had a
with the chair.
discussion as way to address your concerns, then that discussion on how it's gonna be addressed should kind of come into how we're addressing all the concerns, because your concerns were included in the review.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
agree
part
with
of
that.
our response. So I know, right now, it's a public meeting, so we can, but if you've got a plan going forward and it's gonna address certain things, that should be included in how we're going forward with that, so.
I just say that I'd be happy to meet with any member that wants to talk to me about their concerns. I've never closed the door to anybody, be it Lee or Carol, Mr. Chairman. I think we had an extensive conversation about concerns and your concerns and addressing them. I'm happy to have the same meeting with Leah and Carol if they would like to talk about them. Although me and Lee have had some conversations over some time. There's been some conversations, and I'm happy to have it. Like I said, I've never shut. I don't think me and Carol have really ever, other than the other day when she was with you, I don't think we really had any conversations about any concerns. To be honest with you, I don't know if there's concerns. If she has them, I don't know what they are directly, but I'm happy to sit and meet with her and talk about whatever. I won't, truthfully, I won't take any offense to any of your concerns. I'm not going to get mad, upset. I'm going to try to address them. That's
Sorry
all.
about that. To the chair,
Sure.
I just throw it out here that our bylaw does state that we can have an executive session about this without the TA, if that's, yes,
I know
we
you
can,
can.
it's a bylaw.
Yeah, but you can't do that according to open meeting law. You can't have a meeting. If you want to discipline me or something, you can do something like that. But just to talk about a performance review without me, I don't think you'd
We
have the
can
ability to do
discuss
that.
concerns regarding the TA's contract, conduct, or employment status.
Okay.
It's a bylaw, I checked
I don't
with,
know if that's whatever.
Does the bylaw override
No.
state?
there's nothing in the contract that says that we
No.
can't.
There are requirements under state law of what you can go into executive session for.
Well, we're actually
We're
gonna
gonna
have
say the
David
bylaws.
on here too, we'll probably get clarification on that anyway,
It's
but,
not on our agenda, but whatever.
well, the review's on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda for executive session. You mean in
Oh, no,
David's-
well, the clarification on whether you
for
can
public.
have executive session, not,
Okay.
not any specifics.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, but, so, I guess I'm gonna propose that we postpone it for the next meeting to develop a plan, give everybody an opportunity to review the review that we presented to Ron, have any discussions with Ron individually if they feel it necessary, and, and I ask that members come back with some kind of a plan on how we're gonna address this, because I really don't wanna leave this hanging and open, because we're gonna have to close out the review at some point. And if there's any concerns that we want to be specifically addressed, we've gotta make sure that that's clear. Does anybody?
Great.
And then, when we get town council, we can just clarify on what we can and can't do as far as if we feel that there needs to be an executive session or not, or what.
Just
to do.
that would help to
Yeah.
move things along.
Yeah. Well, I just want to try to get us all on the same page. I don't really know how to do it much more than I've been trying right now, but. So, is everybody in agreement? We'll just put this on the next agenda for further discussion on the plan to address weaknesses. Okay. And we'll get clarification when David comes on if there's any concerns as far as what should or shouldn't be in executive session, et cetera. So, Is everybody in agreement?
Yes.
All right, so, and we all got our budget books, and Karen's got the spreadsheet, so we're not gonna discuss the specifics of the budget tonight. And you're meeting Thursday, Karen, with your committee,
Finance board, fire department.
fire department, but you also just having a general discussion regarding the budget, or? Okay. And then, this will give everybody opportunity to kind of look through this. I just wanna make sure everybody had the material so that we're not constantly interrupting when Ron goes through it on the specifics. Everybody can already have their questions and stuff prepared as you go through, so we're not all trying to figure it out as you're presenting it to us. And he'll have an opportunity to talk to the Finance Committee on Thursday. So we'll put that on the actual presentation and specifics.
Is
of
that
the
what I'm
next
doing it
agenda.
Thursday now? With the finance board meeting?
Well, no, I'm just saying the Finance Committee is meeting on Thursday, so they have the information, and they'll
I guess,
be prepared for any kind of comments or anything too.
so the process here is confusing me a little bit because, we did the presentation last year. The presentation, in a lot of ways, at least in my mind, and in my history of experience, has always been, the presentation has really always been to the select board before it's given to the finance committee, because the select board doesn't have a lot of play in the budget process. As you know, it goes to the finance committee, So the presentation is more an opportunity to me to express to the select board the kind of budget I'm going to be presenting to the finance committee. That's how it was done last year, and that's kind of what I expected this year to have happen. Now, I usually do the presentation before I give it to you, so that people are paying attention to what I say. You guys are going to have plenty of time now to read the presentation because you all have it. So I'm not sure the effectiveness of that presentation anymore, but I'm happy to, if the board wants it, this board or the finance committee wants me to do the formal presentation, I'm happy to do that, but they're going to have a week to read it now, so I'm not sure it's going to be as meaningful as I had intended tonight, but whatever the board's desire is, I'm happy to do.
In the past, Leah or Skip, did the TA present a budget to you formally and do a presentation?
Yeah, that's what I did last year.
No, I know what you did. I'm saying.
No, you did before me?
We never did it
No.
that way. You did
Never
that,
did
and my concern.
You were new.
Yeah.
Oh, I was new? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we never did it that way. It always went to the finance committee. My concern is that you did it last year, and none of that happened because it was a total disaster, and everything is somewhat subjective because at that time when you presented the budget, you were counting on the school standing by what you thought was an agreement on what they were going to accept, and then
No. I just be clear. No, the school asked for like 961,000 as their first number. I didn't expect it to stay, but I was told when I came here that, and me and Karen had a discussion about this today, that we had to present the school's number to the town meeting, and I put it in the budget thinking, okay, we had to present that there and then show cuts. Turns out not to be quite accurate. We can go to town meeting and just tell town meeting what the budget number was. It didn't have to be part of our budget, which caused major dilemma in our process last year. So this year, as you'll see in the budget presentation, I used my own budget number for what the schools are going to get. And yes, we're going to tell town meeting what they asked for, but I put what we can afford, not what they would ask for. So that was the dilemma last year. A misunderstanding, or at least from what I was told, a process that was different than what the reality is, and we followed through, I think, a very bad process.
So we
because
kind of
of
took
that.
it off the agenda, so we can't get into too much
No.
specifics. And I know you did that last year, but that's not how it was always handled. And my concern is that, you and the finance committee are a team that are
Yeah.
going to present this budget to us. I know you developed the original balanced budget. My concern is that once you do a big public presentation and things start to change quickly, if all of a sudden the numbers change and stuff like that, and you plan on doing this, that, or you've almost given the perception to the public that this is what we're going to do, and then it all's going to change and quickly. So I understand that you need to present a balanced budget, and we need to discuss it, but I think when we do it too grand, then it's given a perception that I don't want to have.
So, Mr. Chairman, I understand what you're saying, but in all the budgets I've ever done, it's always been done that way. And even the governor's budget, he comes out with his budget, and then the House and Senate change the budget.
Right.
It's no different than even the governor's budget, state budget. That's part of the budget process. Is
Right.
that the executive branch, which is you guys, we present the budget to legislative branch, which is effectively the finance committee and town meeting at the end, is more doing the legislative part of it. But the reason I presented to you is, one, my job description says I work for you, and even my job description says that, the budget should be presented to the selectmen, finance committee, and others. It's really your only opportunity as a select board to hear the presentation that's coming from the executive branch of government, because what I do reflects on you. So that's why the presentation will come to you guys first, and then you guys effectively refer it to the finance committee for them to start the whole legislative
Well, that's,
process.
I think it's very specific in the new bylaws. They're saying that you will present a balanced budget directly to the finance committee.
The only wording change was the balanced budget part, right? So that was normally
But
that's
you
how
are
it's done.
supposed to present it to them, and you are our financial team. You and the finance committee are our financial team. So I guess we can't get
Yeah.
into too much.
No, I'm just trying to
debate
explain
about
to you my
But and
logic.
I understand you did that last year, but that's not how we've done it in the past.
Yeah.
And my concern, as I said, is I want certainly the finance committee to be able to take a look at it so they can prepare questions about what you're thinking in the budget you're presenting. And I think it's much more difficult when everybody's looking at it for the first time, and then everybody's going to be asking questions, and it just drags it on to a much longer process, where if they have the opportunity to take a look at the numbers quick,
Yeah.
they can look at it, formulate any questions, and I think it's a much more smooth process
just-
that gives people opportunities. So.
Sure, just to let you know, the intention of the presentation wasn't for a question and answer period. It was just to present it, and then where the questions get asked at the finance committee level, that's where all the questions asked. For the presentation tonight was really just supposed to be me to present it to you so you have it and see it, and then the real work actually gets done at the finance committee. But that's the purpose of it. It was just a way to kind of include you in the process, is really what it was intended to do. But I listen, I'll do it any way you guys want. I'm not.
I mean, does the board feel that this is the way we want to proceed? Do we, I mean, obviously, I think that even our board should have the opportunity to look at the numbers and stuff so we know what's going to be presented ahead before we, so, because you may say it's not a question and answer, but if you present a budget to us, we're certainly going to speak up and have
Sure.
questions, so it's
Typically,
going to
yeah.
end up being a
Yeah.
question and answer. So.
That's
So
fine.
anyway,
Okay.
we'll postpone that. At least the numbers are out there and people can start looking at what our first run is at the budget and where we're hoping to be, because we know that that's always.
So to get back to the final
process.
question, are we doing a presentation? Am I doing that
We
presentation?
will do it, we're gonna do the
do a
presentation, we'll do it at
presentation?
the next meeting.
Okay.
And so you can, and that way it gives you an opportunity to explain it, but at least everybody has an opportunity to look
look
at
at it
what the
ahead of time.
numbers are,
Okay.
so that's my
And the
concern.
finance committee would be welcome, obviously, to the, I don't know if it's gonna be a joint meeting or what, but.
As long as they have the numbers, and yes, certainly they are welcome
Okay.
to come and listen to the presentation, obviously, but at least you
Just
have your
let
numbers.
me know when the next meeting is, because it would be President's Day, I think, and
21st, 22nd.
so we move it to Tuesday.
Yeah, it should be on our agenda, right?
It is.
Who reads those?
I do.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got kind of off track on the whole budget thing. So, David is not on.
I don't know. Well, we can talk without him, because we know what David told us, but David confirmed with me he was coming like an hour ago, so I don't understand where he is.
So, before we,
You want me to
so
call
we're
Yeah,
still
do you have
gonna,
his number? Call him.
so just before we're gonna turn into an executive session, Economic Development Plan Committee, they're moving along fine.
They're moving along very well. They are going to be meeting again 2 days from now, I think.
That is him, he's been sitting there.
And
Hey, Dave, it's Nick Monaco.
Oh.
And they're going to be looking at the zoning map to see what areas of town are business and
Yeah.
commercial, all the different things, so you can look at it. And they are going to discuss, the other issue on the agenda is discussion about businesses that are locating themselves in residential areas, which we know is a big issue.
Mhm.
So that's on the agenda. I drafted the agenda for the chair, and the chair didn't make any change to the agenda, so I think it's going forward. I've asked David McKay to be there, and David George will be there, so we can have that open and honest discussion.
Okay, great. Anything new on the website stuff? No? Boards and commissions, we've been posting that on there.
Yeah, we actually posted that up again on the
We haven't got
system.
anybody with showing interest
I,
in it.
and I haven't heard, Beth hasn't said anything.
Maybe when they see all these names in the paper, they'll get excited and
There you go,
jump
maybe.
on board because they want to win. You guys you talked to Becky briefly about the looking at the positions and stuff.
I got it. We said call him back when they're ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, about 2
And
seconds.
we
Got a
did
Zoom
it.
meeting.
He wants to just,
Oh, you can't get on?
yeah.
And then we already had a brief discussion as far as where we're going with the budget, and it's been the figures have been distributed. So I think that's everything. There's a list of the meetings. Everybody saw that the meeting with the Wachusett Regional School District has been changed to the 17th, so everybody knows that. All right, do we have any other thing other than that before we go into executive session? And if I can get a motion to go into executive
We
session.
wanna,
Oh.
Tamika, we wanna close this one first, right?
Right, we're gonna
Or
close
close
it
it
out to
from
go
the
into
executive
executive session and not come back,
Right,
right?
so you want to say that you're going to adjourn from executive session?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I add one other thing?
Yeah.
When you make the motion to enter executive session, make sure you include that you're inviting the police chief and the attorney into executive session. Technically, that's the way we're supposed to do it.
Okay. So if somebody wants to make that motion with all that stuff in it. Tamika wrote it down anyway, so.
I'm good.
So Skip's gonna say ditto or something.
Ditto from Skip.
Night, Karen.
Good night.
Karen, if you don't mind, would you close the door on your way out, because we gotta do executive session, so if it's
What do I
okay.
look like?
The door person, last one
The
in.
door person.
First one out.
So Carol, did you make that motion?
And I
Yes.
seconded it.
Okay, it's seconded, okay. So
And Mr.
roll call
Do you mind if I join you?
Dog eye. Sit right there.
Whitman, I.
Benoit, aye.
and Nichols. So we'll be going into executive session.